Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Elite Expert Insider Podcast. Hosts Melanie Johnson and Jenn Foster are the owners of Elite Online Publishing. They're both Wall Street Journal, USA Today best-selling authors. We're really glad you're here because this podcast was designed for you. Meet industry experts that share their secrets and strategies. Get successful results for your business in money, relationships, health, and your life. Each episode is going to inspire you to take action towards reaching your greatness.
Hey everyone, it's Melanie Johnson. Thanks for joining us today. I've got my business partner from Elite Online Publishing, Jenn Foster, with me. Hi, Jenn.
Hey everyone, how's it going today?
So, the buzz is real estate. Where in the heck is it going? It was so hot. The market was on fire. And now the interest rates have gotten higher. How do you invest? What are the keys to being successful in investing? How do you create passive income, take advantage of the taxes? Well, we have a huge expert with us, Dre Evans, with us today. Not only is he an expert at leadership, or an expert at real estate, he's an expert at leadership. I know I'll get that out. Dre, thanks for coming today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
And tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved into real estate.
Wow, that's quite a story. So, Naval Academy graduate. My background stems from being a former gang member, and my opportunity of a lifetime was when I went to Annapolis. So in that process, I met a good buddy of mine named Keegan Wetzel. He's a Naval Academy graduate as well, and my memoir, Prove Them Wrong, is set to release on November 29th. And at the time, I was just written it, but I was nowhere near close to publishing it. And I'm venting to him at coffee at Starbucks. I'm like, hey, until I release this book, I don't have anything else that would produce the residual income to free my family from that financial bondage, break that poverty cycle. And I'm venting to him. And then he says the words to me. He's like, you should buy a multifamily. And I'm looking at him and I said to myself, what is that? And he's trying to explain it to me over the next 15, 30 minutes. And it's just going over my head. And I think, and for me, I'm a Christian guy. So I think that was God's funny way of entertaining me. And you have to show people, show and tell. And they always say that people perish for lack of knowledge. And sometimes you cannot dream what you cannot see. And I think there's a big commonality in Chicago coming out of the South Side, coming from what you would consider the ghetto or the hood, because it was always commonplace that if I don't make it I hope I make it to 21. And I didn't dream. I didn't have anyone that was a business person. I didn't have any successful males around me. And I think God realized that in that funny way. And so he was like, okay, I'm going to show you. So we get in the car, we drive down the street and we pull up to this property. Now, mind you, the backstory, the funny part about this is when I completed my last deployment on a DDG, I came back, it was COVID. All the gyms in San Diego were closed. And as I'm a gym buff, love working out. And there was only one gym now, one of the primary ones that was open. It was called Grinders Gym. And I remember pulling up to the gym. It was owned by a veteran, but I parked in this block. And this block, I remember pulling up and it was a super nice house. And I was like, man, that's a really nice house. It had the little rooftop deck. There's a couple out there. So when we pull up to this multifamily property, it was right next door to that house. So that was the other connecting dot that I thought was very funny. And I learned that all the multifamily properties on that block were owned by Academy graduates, West Point and Naval Academy. So that was the other sign.
Wow.
And then it was like, in my opinion, God took it a step further because now he allowed me to see it. But then he allowed Keegan to take the next hour or so and explain to me and literally data dump, brain dump everything he could tell me about multifamily, but it just went all over my head. And looking back, Keegan reflected that he thought he scared me away, but it was the opposite. I'm a big reflectionary person, and I went away, and for the next 3-4 months, I consumed everything I could about multifamily real estate and real estate in general and real estate taxes, real estate law. And then shortly after that, I bought my first multifamily property in San Diego. It was a $2 million property. It was a 4-unit in Pacific. Took me about a couple of months, got it to cash flow. About $1,000, $1,500 a month. And then from there, I did 12-unit deal in San Diego and then a 75-unit deal in Texas. And then right now I'm under contract on a 7-unit boutique hotel in Cabo, St. Lucas, right off the distance from the beach.
Nice.
And then That's My Property, started the podcast, started one of the biggest meetups in San Diego with over 100 members, 9 sponsors for that. We had 2 sponsors for the podcast. It just went like boom. And I'll be 2 years in this December.
Wow. And I think you have to really be brave to jump into multifamily. My son has been trying to push me to do multifamily. I've always done single family homes. And my scary part is who's going to be collecting all the rent? You got to have a management company, even if it's for a fourplex. Like, I don't want to have to manage that. I've got a day job. So walk us through why we shouldn't be afraid and what we should know ahead of time and have in place before we jump into multifamily.
I would tell you that it also depends on your goals and wants. I do believe that there is a strength, and you will have some people argue this, there is a strength to managing it yourself. You do learn a lot of the ins and outs of laws and dealing with tenants and having your systems in place. That is great. And you do keep more cash flow. That is true. But then it's at what expense? And that is your time. One thing that I've learned as an entrepreneur that, again, some people may disagree with this, but you have to look at scalability. Also, again, your goals. Are you just trying to be a small mom and pop operator, or are you trying to scale a business? And any true entrepreneur knows that in order to scale, the most important thing is time. And can you buy time? And so for me, if I have a property manager in place, that buys me time. I don't have to deal with anything. Just send me the checks. I should just see checks in my bank account, and that's all I care about. And I think that alone is what allowed me to continue to scale my business the way I have, because I don't have to. Yes, I'm not making as much as the person that is managing it on their own, but look, I scaled faster. So I have more doors. I have more units that are now producing me more income. I'm able to do other things, put other systems in place for my business to grow it because I have that time compared to the other person. You're growing at, okay, I got a property every 2 years or so, but we're doing multiple in a year because of that system. So that would be my critique to people based on your goals and what you're looking to achieve. There are positives and negatives to both, but I truly believe that you should err on the side of the right side of time and the freedom of time, purchasing in time in whatever way you can.
So how do you find a great management company? So you're starting out, and before you buy that multifamily, you should really find a great management company in that area. So you have management, you have Cabo, you have California, you have different places. So they're all different management companies, I would imagine.
Correct. My thing would be, there's many ways you can do it. So the first thing is you can just drive. If there's an area you live, you can drive the neighborhood and look at all the properties that are really nice. Find out who manages them. You can call, and there's that. Sometimes they even post signs and they'll say managed by whoever, but you can also look up information on the property itself and find out who it's managed by. If you have the address, you can Google it. You can find out that way. If it's on Zillow, whatever it may be, you can find out who's managing, whoever's answering the phone. There's one tactic. The second thing is agents and brokers that deal with investors. Reaching out to them, reaching out to the ones that are more experienced in the game. They can have recommendations. And then I would say just research. If you did do a Google search and you looked up, let's say San Diego, best property management companies in San Diego, obviously there's going to be a big list that comes up. But there are going to be constant questions that then at that point you can interview all of them. You can gauge based on what they say, how they do their leases, what criteria they look for when they select tenants, what things they have in place. You can talk about security deposits. You can talk about fees. How do they handle reimbursements? How do they handle the move out procedures? How often do they go to the property? All those different questions. You can go on Google, and also and there are also books that can get a list of common questions or common criteria on how to vet a property manager. But those are just a few different ideas that you could do. Another one that I didn't mention is even going to a local real estate meetup. You can go to a local real estate meetup. You can meet investors there and ask them, hey, who owns in the local area? What property management company do you recommend?
I like that. One thing that stands out in your story to me is once you decided, hey, I want to be into multifamily or I want to do real estate, you went and got the education and you did a deep dive into it before you ever did anything. So where did you go to get that education, and how can someone start educating themselves on this?
There's many different ways you can do it. You can do YouTube University, Podcast University. And obviously when I say that, I'm saying it loosely, meaning going on YouTube and consuming as much knowledge as you can about real estate and multifamily investing, as well as through podcasts. There are many podcasts out there that you can consume content from, and in books. Any book that had multifamily or commercial real estate in it, I read it. And I marked it up and I annotated and I read it a couple of times. And then from there, you have the meetups. Going to the meetups allows you to partner with people that are investing. You can connect with them, have coffee with them, have dinner with them, network with those people. There's the mentorship aspect. If you find a mentor that they see something in you, or you have a commonality and you can add value to them in some way, that's another way to grow in your knowledge, grow faster, learn from their experience, learn from their mistakes that they made in the past. And then the paid mentorship. There are a lot of mastermind groups out there that you can pay into monthly that are about $100, $200 a month, just like we have an author mastermind. And there's that. And then you're surrounded by a community of experts and people that are already active. And then there's the really big paid mentorship programs where you might pay 20, 30, 50, 100 grand. And some people might say that's outrageous, but it's worth it because you're getting everything in one. You're getting a good bang for your buck. Now I know that there's some people that have been scammed from that. You have to do your due diligence on who you're doing that mentorship program through. But there are some reputable ones like the Avengers Mastermind. That's a big one in San Diego with Ken Clothier. There's a lot of big wigs in that group. And I think that one's 50, 100 grand, something like that. Don't quote me on that. But it's a lot. It's pretty steep. But again, if that puts you in a room when everyone is a millionaire, you're going to learn from millionaires. So that 100 grand that you spent, that 50 grand that you spent is nothing in comparison to what you're going to learn and make in a year.
Yeah, it compresses time, like you were saying, what you do with the multifamily and having a management company. So there's a lot of tax advantages with owning real estate and owning multifamily. And now the interest rates are so high, right? They just went up again. So you might even pay 8%. Is it still a good time to invest? And does it work out with the tax advantages that it's still, any time is still a good time?
It's similar to the mentorship philosophy in the sense of spending that 50 to 100 grand for that mentorship, and people think it's outrageous because they can't quantify their return on time. You should always buy real estate. At the beginning of COVID, everyone was saying, don't buy. And now those people are kicking themselves because they didn't buy.
Yeah.
Not only because prices were lower, but really the biggest thing was what? Interest rates.
Yeah.
Right? And to look how the values were lower and interest rates were low. And value shot up. And now interest rates shot up. And now people are saying that we're in a recession. Now people are saying don't buy. But again, depending on your market, you should still buy because it's only going to go up. It's not like it's going to go down. And that's the thing that people don't realize. Back in the day, if we looked at trends, people would have said that today would have been unachievable. We would have never had the price that we have. In my parents' lifetime, they had interest rates at 7, 8, 9%. And they still cash flowed. So now what it is, people got spoiled of the COVID rates, and now they're screaming and running in the streets and hoopla saying that the interest rates are too high, don't buy in real estate, or we're in a recession. But think about it. And I said this in my motivational speaking. LeBron James is going to go out and play basketball in the off, no matter what's going on in the world. Even during COVID, in the bubble, what they do, they still find a way for them to play. When he's not even in the off season, he's training. A real estate investor, someone that's truly successful, an entrepreneur too, is going to find a way to run their business no matter what is going on, even if it's a zombie apocalypse. So people should approach it in the same way, in the same mindset in real estate, is that it is always a good time to buy. Now, you might have to shift your criteria. You might have to be more creative in your investing and your financing and how you make a deal work, but it's always a good time to buy because at the end of the day, values are going to continue to go up. And when you look back 2, 3, 5 years now, if you owned it, if you bought it sooner, it's still a win. You can always go back and refinance later when rates drop.
That's what I heard Dave Ramsey say. You can always go back and refinance when rates drop. But then I was like, does that really make sense? Because then the mortgage, you having to pay points again, and then you're paying more interest on it.
It depends on what business. It also too, are we speaking single family? Or are we speaking multifamily? Are we speaking another commercial real estate assets? And that's a whole different topic or discussion within itself. But in general, it's the idea of starting. You gain sometimes it's not about the dollar value. Sometimes it is, but it could be experience. They talk about the law of the first deal. And the idea is that, okay, let's say you bought a deal when your interest rates are high, but and let's say you rode that for 4 months, 6 months, up to a year. All that experience you got though. So let's say then interest rates go down and then you leverage that first property to get your second. But now you have the experience and now you can make even more moves when the interest rates are low. And you can leverage the knowledge that you gain and the experience you gain because you bought a deal when interest rates are high. So even if you were negative $200 a month, you still benefited because you still now have 2 properties under your belt. But that second one that was the one that really changed the game for you because of the lessons you learned on the first one. But if you did it the other way and you waited when interest rates are low, the first move that you make is not as astronomical. It's not as large of a footprint as what you did if you would have bought the first way out.
And it's really that first purchase. It does change who you are, right? You're like,
Your
now
thought process.
now I'm a property owner, whether it's for your own home or whether for its investment property, you feel more puffed up. Even like we tell people when they launch their book and they become a #1 bestseller, how do you feel now? Like you feel, even though it's like you should feel different when you walk into the room, you're walking in as an author and as a best-selling author, where you're walking in a room and now you own property. So it does change your mindset and where you're going from there. So I do agree with that.
Well, tell us a little bit about your words of affirmation, because I know you're really into the positive. So tell us about the positive words of affirmation.
That started with being in Chicago. I was around so much negativity, and I was trying to trick my mind to believe better and think better. So even in the name of my business, you could see it behind me on my screen for That's My Property. So That's My Property alone, I wanted something that when people said my business name, it made them feel something. The name of the business alone is an affirmation. So people can go and say, that's my property. You can claim that on anything that you want to purchase. I can claim that on anything I want to purchase. And even the logo itself is a sticky note. I wrote on sticky notes. I posted them on my car. When I get in my car, I have all my goals for the month, for the year. And I read them every time I get in my car before I drive. I have sticky notes all over my bedroom, like windows, on the walls, in my bathroom windows. You're brushing your teeth, you're washing your face, affirmations. So that all on my desks are just things. You have the gift of storytelling. There are two types of pain: the pain of discipline, the pain of regret. Which will you choose? So there's all these different things that I surround myself just being positive, that people don't realize that after a while, your brain will shift. You'll be very optimistic when you have faced resilience, when you face adversity. Instead of thinking woe is me, or instead of thinking this sucks, you're like, find a way. What is the lesson learned in this adversity? You know what I mean? So I think that it's just a big mindset shift. And when you have that ability to look at struggles and problems in life and be able to be a problem solver, that's when your outlook on life changes and your ability to really make moves and really make impact in people's lives.
Yeah. Tell us where we can find you, Dre, where people can find your book and get more information about That's My Property.
Yes. So drmultifamily.com has been like my nickname. I think it spins off of Dr. Dre. So everyone calls me Dre. My real name is Andre, but literally everyone calls me Dre. Dr. Multifamily became a thing once I got into multifamily real estate. So drmultifamily.com, on all social media platforms at Dr. Multifamily. So that's at DRM and then multifamily. And then provethemwrongthebook.com and multifamilybytheslice.com, which is the podcast website.
Great. We'll put those links up in the show notes and people can go and follow you on all of those platforms.
Awesome.
Thanks, Dre, for coming today. And remember, if you're looking to write a book and become a #1 best-selling author, reach out to us at eliteonlinepublishing.com, hit the author submission button, and we'll see if we're a good fit for each other. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Hey, are you looking to increase your revenue, build credibility, and elevate your brand? This podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, an innovative publishing and full-spectrum marketing company. They will publish and market your book to make it a #1 bestseller. Becoming an author is the best way to market your business. So contact them at eliteonlinepublishing.com today. All of their authors become #1 bestsellers.